Chup chup, movie boy. Shut up! Finally, I can end this cycle of talking about Joe. Season 5 was released. It's been a good run with Beck, Love, Marianne, Kate, and now a new girl. It's been a great journey from how Joe has changed over time, him being uncomfortable with what he has done, to now being okay with murdering. Before we start, I want to thank you guys for all the support in my reviews of this series. My first video about you is my most popular video, so I wanted to say thank you. Also, that video sucks. I don't know why it's the most popular video, but it is. Joe is back in New York, married to one of the richest people in the world, Kate Lockwood. It's been about 3 years since the last season. Joe even has custody of his kid, who's now a toddler.
Just one more chapter, please.
It's bedtime, Bob. You have all the time in the world to read tomorrow.
But they're about to go into Mirkwood without Gandalf.
You're reading The Lord of the Rings? You nerd! Joe is also famous now, being a trophy husband to Kate. He and Kate are at a business party thing for the Lockwood Foundation.
To encourage literacy amongst children in the foster system. To provide safe places for them to learn and read, including sponsoring their college education. To fund this endeavor, the T.R. Lockwood Corporation will earmark up to a quarter of its annual profits.
Kate, by the way, didn't talk with the board about doing that. Why does Joe look like some mobster in a 90s movie? Anyway, Joe goes over to Kate's family, including her half-twin sisters, Reagan and Megan, who are both opposite personalities. The one twin is a boss bitch, and the other one is supposed to be an airhead. They're both important later on, so keep an eye on them. You know how twins in movies and TV and stuff are usually the opposite of each other? That may seem like it's fiction, but it's kind of true. I am an identical twin. Me and my brother are very similar, but also very different in some ways. Of course, we grew up on the same things, but our environment shaped us a little differently. Although, not to the extent of Megan and Reagan. We also have Kate's uncle, who's on the board. He goes up to Kate and Joe. He egos Joe hard and tells him to get a drink so the adults can talk. Another Lockwood family member is Teddy, a very gay black man who's a product of an affair with a maid. So he's not the most accepted part of the family, but that doesn't matter to Kate since she brought him on as the chief of staff for the business. The family tree here is very complicated. You got a British Kate, 2 American twin sisters, and a gay black man thrown in there. Teddy mentioned that there was a hit piece that's planning to be published about how Kate pretty much gave a bunch of kids cancer that was mentioned last season. The next morning, Joe and Teddy decide to talk about it, but Teddy doesn't know that Kate was involved until Joe tells him everything. But they don't know who gave that reporter the information on Kate. They decide to visit Reagan to see if she was involved.
I'm sorry. Were you planning on saying words, or were you just gonna audit?
It is laughable that you are denying this.
It is laughable to me that you, a glorified assistant, think you can just walk in here with our sister's weirdo hubby who apparently forgot how to talk and just hurl around baseless accusations, especially considering how kind I have been to you.
I love that you think that.
I love that you think you belong here. Just because Daddy came home one afternoon with a heart-on, and instead of Mom, he found some woman with a vacuum.
Cute. Where was your mother that day?
Damn, that was a long clip, but I wanted to keep that in there. Those roasts were deep in so many ways. She obviously demands they leave. Also, she had nothing to do with the reporter. Joe visits Maddie next. She's pretty nice compared to her sister, which isn't saying much. Joe goes on her phone when she goes to the bathroom, and he finds a group chat talking about the article and finds out the uncle is behind it. Joe finally talks to Kate about it, but she doesn't believe Joe for some reason. Joe decides to kidnap the uncle and question him in a very dark building.
This is for Kate.
Joe.
Psych. He was writing about killing her uncle. Joe talks about how much he misses killing bad people. Kate is uncomfortable with Joe and his writing. That would make sense.
And what you wrote here makes you feel?
Exhilarated. It does. If it's for the right reason, yeah. I have always wanted to protect you from these parts of me, and I was afraid that you would look at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now, but this is still me, Kate. I love you.
I need to get home.
Okay, you know what he's done. Maybe not all of it, but enough to recognize that he's murdered people. why is it now that you care? Joe's back at Mooney's now since he's in New York. He hears a suspicious noise in the store and investigates.
Wait, don't, please.
This girl is Bronte, some art girl who snuck in to read books. She speaks like a book nerd and talks about how much books are important or whatever. Joe decides to let her go out of friendliness, I hope. The next day, Kate decides to visit her uncle and confronts him about leaking her secret to a reporter.
I'll make it easy. Yes, I leaked your secret to that reporter.
Why? After all these years?
You've lost the plot.
She talks to Joe about what her uncle admitted to, including knowing that Kate hid that Reese was killed. She tells Joe that he can do what he needs to be done to Mr. Uncle Bob. That night, Joe visits Kate's uncle and greets him in a very friendly way.
Bastard thought he could come for you.
Joe frames it as a typical unalive himself job. After doing that, Joe goes back to the bookstore and finds Bronte again. She's homeless or something and is sleeping at the bookstore. Joe actually offers her a job at Mooney's for some reason. We end the episode with Joe visiting his old friend in the bookstore's basement. Episode 1. I love that Joe is back in action. I heard some hate on You from some people, but I like the season so far. Of course, it has run for a long time, but I believe it's a well-written show. All the other seasons were about Joe discovering who he was, and now he actually knows who he is, and he likes killing, and has accepted that side of himself. So I'm curious how he's going to use that, and he's not denying that side, so it's just him. But I'm curious about the new girl, how she's going to be involved with Joe in his final arc, and maybe him probably going to prison at the end. I guess we'll find out. Joe is cleaning up the bookstore. He says,
Hello, you.
differently. He's talking about himself when he says that now, which I think is a refreshing take, instead of repeating that in his head every time he saw a pretty lady who said one word to him. Kate is a pretty good mom. I like how she acts with Henry. He's not even her kid, but she treats him very well. Anyway, enough with the wholesome stuff. Joe killed Uncle Bob, and Kate is a tad uncomfortable with that, but he tries to understand her feelings that way because he's such a nice guy. Back to the bookstore.
What is that?
Isn't it gorgeous? I found it on the street. Can you believe that? I think it's giving like Edgar Allan Poe, Postman TB, which I think could actually be its own subgenre of like cottagecore e-boy maximalism.
I have no idea what you just said, but
Me neither. You see what I mean? The writers are using Gen Z slang when it's very out of place in a show like this. I'm just glad it's funny. Bronte admits that she is still homeless and is living at the bookstore.
$8 more per hour, and that's officially like 3 times more than I ever made here.
You can't just throw money at everything, Joe. I'm not a charity case.
But what? You need it.
No,
I'm just giving you shit.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Joe and Bronte keep flirting and stuff, which totally won't go anywhere. Joe has to go to Henry's school because he got into a school fight with Reagan's daughter and broke her nose. Well, the cycle might continue, so that's fun.
This is one out-of-character incident. My son isn't violent. Our son isn't violent.
Did you experience violence as a child?
No.
Henry tells his dad that he hit the girl because she was insulting his birth mom, Love, for being a killer, which she is. So, Joe and Kate are hosting a dinner with Reagan's family to work out their issues.
I'm in. No Gretchen.
We thought it best she stay home, seeing how she's been maimed.
She does love hyperbole, looks sympathetic.
She's just resting. Probably playing Fortnite.
Fortnite? Maybe she deserved to get hit. Am I right? Maddie shows up for some reason, and Teddy too. Kate starts the dinner with a decent speech about how broken their family is. Reagan is a giant meanie and demands that they admit that they are failures as parents. Kate does just that. However, Joe gets that humongous vein in his head when he hears that. While that is happening, Bronte goes into the bookstore basement and finds Joe's dungeon bookcase thing. Even though he told her not to go down there, she does. And she gets trapped inside the cage when she goes inside. Joe apologizes to Reagan, but she doesn't accept it. Joe talks about how she badmouthed Love Quinn to her daughter. However, Reagan wasn't talking about Love, she was talking about Kate, and how she got their uncle killed. Teddy bluffs that Bob actually did kill himself to Reagan. He doesn't know he was killed. Reagan really just wanted the company.
I am digging into everything that you have ever done, and I will find out exactly what Bob had on you.
We were looking at the wrong monster. If Bob was a guillotine, Reagan's a fucking nuke.
I am coming for everything. Your job. Your son. Your pathetic fucking family.
Holy shit, that was an amazing throw. Looks like Bullseye from Daredevil. They leave right after that too. So Joe got an alert that someone was in the basement at the bookstore. Bronte was still in there. Joe is not in the mood for her sarcastic behavior. He questions her about why she went in the basement in the first place. He lets her out, but for some reason, she tells him that she read his fan fiction, the writings of him fantasizing about killing people, and she liked it.
Your protagonist is a serial killer with no backstory, no flaws, no wounds. My gut says that you have more in you, so. What are you hiding from?
What am I hiding from? That's a great question. Maybe it's I did one wrong thing when I was a boy, and I got cast out like garbage. Lost my mother, lost my home, people saw me as damaged goods, and I got dragged through the system only to end up somehow a Lockwood, where nobody understands. Because while they slept on silk sheets, I slept on that fucking floor, locked in the cage.
Solid acting right there. Joe plans to kill Reagan now. He goes to her workplace when she's about to leave. It's pretty much a Hitman 2 mission.
Gotcha, bitch!
Oh shit, that's not Joe, by the way. Don't worry, it's just a grape fantasy that her and her husband set up. Joe knocks her out and locks the husband away in a supply closet. Joe has now locked Reagan in the bookstore cage in the basement, his usual fashion. Uh-oh, that's the wrong twin. While I love the twin twist, it makes sense that Joe can have an easy time, as usual with kidnapping. In addition to that, how do you even solve the twin thing? Unless they hate each other, I feel like he will just have to kill both of them. I like Henry a lot too. He's just a nice kid who hopefully doesn't turn out like his dad. That throw he did with the knife was sick though. He threw that with intention, even though the kid's acting is not great. I don't know how old he is, probably like 8. I am wondering how the season will progress with Bronte and eventually Joe's identity being revealed, since I saw the trailer and know that will happen. Joe's having a bit of a hard time, you know, kidnapping the wrong person. Maddie is a bit confused about why she is locked in a cage somewhere.
Kate had Uncle Bob killed. And you knew Reagan was on your trail, so you wanted to have her killed. And you thought I was her, and this is where you were gonna kill her.
You sound crazy.
Nice gaslighting there. Also, she's a lot smarter than I thought she was. I thought she was just some airhead, but apparently not. Help! Help! Joe, Kate, and Teddy try to figure out how to deal with Reagan trying to send Henry to a different school because he punched Reagan's daughter. Kate is understandably uncomfortable around Joe since she knows he likes killing people and just keeps on pitching it in every conversation. We're at the bookstore and Bronte helps Joe with his writing problem by giving romance advice. She purrs in his ear and heavily flirts with him. Then she makes him act out a scene in a romance book. We go back to the cage, Maddie.
You're a sort of soft boy misogynist, right? Control hungry goblin under a nice guy smile. The Prince of Polite projecting so dang supportive while coveting your wifey's power.
That was the most accurate description of Joe I've heard in a bit. Joe gets mad at Maddie after provoking him. Then he leaves her to go grab romance books at some garage sale with Bronte. She takes him to a very hippie book reading place. Joe talks with an ex-boyfriend.
I thought you were in Vermont, woodshedding your personal essay collection.
I finished early. It turns out I just needed to admit I was the main character.
Oh. I know the writers want us to hate him, and they're making it very easy. And it's always guys who look like him who think that sort of way. The mullet, the very bad facial hair, and the slightly out of shapeness. Clayton, that's the guy's name, embarrassed Bronte by reading her fan fiction or whatever writing she made in the past, and it sucks.
Aren't you ever afraid of it? Your animal side.
I prefer to let my instincts guide me. I want you to come on me. I want you on my lips, my chest, I want to drown in you.
Ew, bro! Drowning in it is crazy. Bronte tries standing up for herself, but Clayton just states that Bronte's real name is Louise, and she's a dentist from Ohio. Down in Ohio! Joe's back at the bookstore. He gets a call from Kate saying that Reagan is dropping the charges on Henry from when he bonked her daughter in the face. So there was pretty much no reason for Joe to do all the kidnapping stuff. He probably just messed up everything. Joe tells Maddie that Reagan and her husband are getting divorced because she found out that, well, her husband was cheating with her twin sister. Maddie is really upset at this news since she's really scared of her sister coming after her. Also, on another note, Reagan's daughter is actually Maddie's daughter. Reagan bullied her to do it, saying, quote, Reagan didn't want to get stretched out. Joe goes to Bronte's apartment. Well, kinda her apartment. Since she was homeless, Joe decided to buy her an apartment for the time being, since he's incredibly rich now. They get all flirty and stuff, and Joe talks about Beck because Bronte read her book and is a big fan of Beck, which is even why she visited the bookstore.
We dated. Briefly.
No way.
It was a tragedy. What happened to her? I've never told anyone this. I wish I killed Dr. Nicky.
Anyway, he leaves as he does as usual. Ding 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 ding! You guessed it. Jerking off in his writing room while thinking of Bronte. He's done it every season. Why stop now? I'm pretty sure I heard in an interview that Penn Badgley wanted to do less sex scenes, so maybe this was the trade-off. He's also perfect at acting while doing it, like in a weird, creepy way. He gets that freaking vein in his forehead, dude. Joe goes back home to talk with Kate. She talks to him how much he feels like he's changed. He tells her he wants a purpose again, and killing for his family makes him proud, but she finds it disgusting.
Kate, I married a queen, fierce and powerful, not to be fucked with, and I know that person is still inside of you. Let me be your knight. I need to be of service. Let me help you make the world better.
That quote goes kind of hard, not gonna lie. If it was anyone else, it'd be dorky, but that voice, mwah. Joe goes to bed and scrolls on his phone and sees a live Instagram story of Maddie, but it's Reagan telling the live feed that she's leaving the board and is giving control to Reagan herself. Episode 3, this was a solid episode. Joe is coming up with his new big idea that will probably go well, unless he does something dumb. Now, let me talk about Bronte. I already said how I felt with Joe's types going from season to season, but man, Bronte's look is whack. The red hair and the weird color combinations. I know she's living in New York, but you don't have to look like you smell like a New Yorker. Joe is being ignored by his wife. You know, the usual marriage stuff.
Everything you have to say. And the only reasonable response I have for you is, fuck you. I am a queen. Slay! I will make this world better, and I am not to be fucked with.
Dang, alright. Oh, come on. We're not even 5 minutes in and we're getting a scene of Joe jerking off. Why? Joe visits Maddie to discuss a new plan for her to become Reagan. Since Joe plans to kill Reagan, which isn't gonna go wrong at all. While that was happening, Reagan figured out that Joe killed Reese in London and that he also killed Uncle Bob. She's using that as blackmail to make herself CEO.
Resign. And your secrets, they will stay just that. But if you don't, who is gonna take care of poor little psycho child when mommy and daddy are both in prison?
Joe is right. You are a monster.
Alright, I don't condone violence since I watched Vinland, but she needs to die. Joe figured out a way for Maddie to become like her sister. We get this hilarious scene of Joe pretending to be Reagan to get Maddie mad, and it works for some reason.
You can never have Harrison.
What are you doing?
After I divorce him, you can't have him. He wouldn't want you anyway.
Okay, stop. I don't like this.
You know the only reason that he likes you is because you look like me, right? Only you because I'm too busy for his dumb ass half the time.
I don't know how she could take this seriously while he sounds so fruity.
Oh, Maddie, Maddie, Maddie.
Whoa, it worked. Honestly, congrats to this actress. She's great at playing both twins, the bitchy, mean Reagan and this Kate tells Joe that she will resign from the company because of what Reagan threatened. Joe thinks she's being a giant pussy for not choosing the hard choice and offing Reagan. Kate also says that she hates her murderous, angry side she gets when she's mad. Then something a bit hurtful.
Just because I acknowledge it does not mean I accept it. I despise that part of myself, and I despise the fact that you won't even try to control it in you. This is murder we're talking about.
You know, she's right. We see it through Joe's lens, so it seems as more harmful than it is. I forget, he's a psycho who killed his girlfriend, wife, and ex-boyfriend of those girlfriends. He's not a good dude. I keep accidentally forgetting that. Joe goes all Ninjago and sneaks into Reagan's mansion. He tries attacking her. Well, that's not good. She runs away and he has to chase her down. He gets beaten with a stick. He eventually knocks her out with a bowling pin. Afterward, Joe drags her body into Maddie's cage.
What the fuck is going on?
Stay in the fucking corner!
Good acting. Joe has a new evil plan, having Maddie kill Reagan, or both of them will die. Pretty good plan since Maddie won't feel like going to the police after killing her sister. When Reagan wakes up and hears that Joe wants Maddie to kill her, she laughs at that idea. Reagan continues to insult Maddie, calling her a pussy, dumb. Also, she curses a lot. She says fuck and cunt a bunch of times. At the same time, that night, Bronte is hosting a book party at Mooney's. Bronte's douchebag ex happens to walk in and has a very nice conversation with her.
Relax, buddy. We're fine.
No, we're not fine. It's time for you to leave.
We're just talking. Right, B? You can have her back when I'm done.
Yo, leave her alone.
After that amazing show of strength, she walks down an alley because of stress or something stupid like that. Joe and her confess their feelings for each other. It's a bit cringe.
Maddie did it. She killed Reagan.
Oh, she did it. Cool. The next day, Maddie pretends to be Reagan and gives up her seat on the board for the awkward business thing during a meeting. Kate was very surprised since she was about to leave the company. Anyway, we end the episode with Joe and Bronte having sex in the bookstore. Reagan's dead. That's cool. She wasn't a great person, so not a horrible loss there. I just can't believe this is the second time Joe is cheating on his wife when he cheated on Love. Cheating on Love made more sense, but still, I have no idea how Joe's secrets are going to be released. I would think it would come from Beck's friends or something similar, since they had a lot of conversations with Joe and could connect a few dots. I guess we'll find out. Joe is now officially cheating on his wife. He's being all gross and romantic. They have a dumb discussion about romance writing.
He's terrified in that moment. This is the first time he's revealing his true self to her.
Yawn. You're writing for the he's a 10, but he wants to kill you crowd. They don't want reality. They want to come thinking about murder sex and then feel weird afterward.
At least the show is understanding its audience. Kate is now investigating Joe. She wants to know all the things he's done and that he still hasn't told her. Maddie is still pretending to be Reagan. It's not going too well. She even called her daughter a C-U-N-T since she's trying to sound like Reagan. Joe's with Bronte that night and is being the loving, cheating boyfriend, husband thing, paying for a massage for her as well. He's pretty much just using Kate's money to treat his side hoe.
Hey, wait. I didn't give you a tip.
Oh, not to worry. Mr. Goldberg has already taken care of it.
Well, thank you.
Uh-oh. Joe got caught again for cheating. At least Kate isn't going to kill the girl. The next day, she cries about it with Teddy. Since she doesn't like Joe that much anymore, she tells Teddy about some of the things he's done in the past, including but not limited to Marianne disappearing after an affair with Joe, and Love supposedly unaliving herself. Teddy rightfully wants to go to the police, but Kate tells him to wait since she has a plan. Well, Kate was having a marriage crisis, and Joe was having kinky sex with Bronte until she tells him the safe word because it was too kinky. He leaves to go talk with Maddie. She says that she's too into the act.
I'm too undercover. You don't get it. Reagan. She's haunting me. And no amount of pills or sage will make her go away.
Man, that's just sad. But Joe tells her to be a man and wait just one more month until he can make the identity of Reagan disappear. Joe goes back to the bookstore to find a note that Bronte is leaving town, and Joe goes into psycho boyfriend detective mode, theorizing that she's probably with Clayton. Now, Joe is back at home with his loveless wife. She yells at him and talks about how much she believes that he killed his first wife and blah 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 blah. He's sleeping with his employee.
There was a time when I thought you understood me.
Oh, how could I, when you didn't tell me the whole truth? I gave you my heart!
You took it right back when you saw mine.
You have killed so many people.
So have you, Kate.
Bars back and forth. Joe's good at gaslighting and makes Kate feel like she's the crazy one. It's impressive, really. Kate wants to divorce Joe now. That's honestly better than wanting to kill him instead, since Love thought that was the best course of action. After that brutal talk, Joe sneaks into Clayton's apartment. He goes into his laptop to find where he is. Bronte calls him in the middle of it, and she makes it seem like Clayton kidnapped her. Anyway, long story short, he found the place she was staying in.
Fuck.
Damn. He wakes up confused since he was just zapped. She tells Joe that they felt too real and that he's married to a millionaire. That's why she left. Speaking of millionaire, Kate goes over to Reagan's. She finds Maddie there. She's confused because she doesn't live at Reagan's. Kate wants to speak to Reagan, so Reagan pretends to be her until that plan falls flat.
Maddie? Okay, where is Reagan?
She's dead.
That was quick. She tells her that Joe kidnapped both of them. Joe and Bronte get all romantic and gross and have sex or whatever they were doing. Clayton randomly shows up and Joe and him fight until Joe does his usual bashing head into a hard object thing. Oh, damn.
What the f is this?
Our friend Clayton, he's dead, and Joe Goldberg f***ing killed him.
What is happening? Well, that was crazy. So they caught Joe. That took how many years? 6, 7? It seems like Bronte was in on it. I have no idea what's going to happen. Well, obviously Joe's going to jail, but I have no idea what the rest of the series is going to be. Is he just going to sit there in jail while we get flashbacks or something? I mean, I have really nothing else to say besides that. I guess we'll find out. Joe is now at the police station signing some papers, meaning he has enough money to bail himself out now. Bronte is now being questioned. She and her friends catfished Joe since she believed they needed justice for Beck. We get a flashback of Bronte at Brown with Beck because they were classmates and friends. Bronte left school to take care of her very sick mother.
Found on the property of Dr. Nicholas Angevine.
When Beck's book came out, she read it to try to stay close to her or something hippie like that. However, she felt that some parts of the book weren't written by her. Then she contacted some fellow Redditors about what happened to Beck. Clayton is Dr. Nikki's son, which is a wild reveal.
I was the main character.
Clayton talks about when Joe pretended to be a gay guy with Dr. Nikki and that he and Beck had the same issues. Clayton, for some reason, figured out that whoever she was dating at the time could be the killer. I do like how during these scenes they are going through the seasons on the mistakes that Joe made. It makes it feel like Joe isn't some genius killer, but someone who used to be more flawed in how he did his criminal stuff. Then we get their reaction when they found out that Joe was alive after the wife killing incident, and now he's a rich guy with Kate's money. Because of that, Bronte goes to New York and sneaks into Mooney's. Bro came out like a horror game villain. I'm not gonna lie. Her friends are annoying. They're very Gen Z, but at the same time, they feel like they're in their mid-30s.
Not gonna lie, best catering gig I've ever worked. The pay was good and they let us take home leftovers.
How'd it go? You know, the regatta.
The gala, darling, the gala. Absolute rich person bonanza. These people smell like uncut money. It's disgusting. I'm obsessed.
She worked as a caterer for the fancy party thingy in the first episode. Also, Bronte never told them that she met Joe.
I met him.
No, you
Fuck
didn't.
off.
I did.
Well, until now. They weaponized Joe's feelings for her to try to get evidence on him, and they used Clayton as a fake ex-boyfriend, which worked very well because he was the worst. Nevertheless, you could guess what happened. Bronte started doubting if Joe was the real killer because she was developing a bit of a crushy-wushy on him. Remember that time Clayton was at the bookstore being a douche? Well, that was kinda an act. He was supposed to be there that day, but Bronte didn't want to have to start acting at the party. He went there anyway and did the whole grab arm thing. When Bronte goes over to Clayton's apartment, they try to talk about it, but Clayton was too blinded by getting revenge for his father. Bronte started falling for Joe. They were hooking up, so that tracks. That's when she left the bookstore. She started losing herself a bit, so Dominic, the big girl, brought her to the beach house. Now we're gonna pause on this little interview thing and go back to the goat. Joe's back at home and Kate isn't too happy.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay, yes. I deserve that.
You really couldn't contain yourself. You needed to kill someone that badly. For sake. Of course you got catfished.
You're right. I've made a mistake.
Please stop with the false humility. Do you think I'm stupid?
People get mad and be like, are you fucking stupid?
She hammers down on Joe, and she also knows about the Reagan stuff. Joe looks for his son, and he's gone. Joe is like the terrifying alcoholic father about to beat his wife. She played a trick by having him sign the parental rights to Kate at the police station. She's got money and strategy on her side.
As long as you behave, you will have access to my family's resources. If you try to come back here, or you try to run, you're on your own. You did this to yourself.
Go off, queen, yas. I was too good at that. Oh no. That was cool of her. I didn't expect her to confront Joe in that manner, since he's killed a lot and facing him would probably be really terrifying. At least she held it in a little. Now back to the interrogation with Bronte. Clayton started going off on his own, painting a picture that he, the ex-boyfriend, is getting back together with Bronte so that he could draw out Joe and have him about to kill Bronte on camera. However, that's not what happened. Clayton started getting mad and was being physical with Bronte. That's when Joe did the splash. Bronte tries to justify Joe's actions by saying it was self-defense because it does seem that way. If you see a girl you know getting thrown on the ground and you end up fighting the guy, that seems like self-defense, at least from a certain angle. Joe and Bronte are now out of custody. Also, Joe hates Bronte now, so she's super safe. This was a crazy episode. So Bronte was doing all this stuff to try to catch Joe as a killer. That makes some sense. But they had too much success, though. You know it's a TV show, but I feel like it would have taken way longer for them to figure that stuff out. How much time did it take? Like 3-5 years? Is that a lot of time? I feel like catching a killer like this would take way longer. I guess since Bronte knew Beck had a boyfriend named Joe, that it could have been easier in him being a suspect. We all know Joe's going to prison or is dying, but how's that even going to play out? Joe is now the talk of the town, with him being accused of murder. He's not very happy about that, being recognized in the streets and such.
This is Kate Lockwood. Leave a message.
Kate, please pick up. At least let me talk to Henry.
You cannot do this! You cannot keep me from my son!
Hey, Teddy. Listen to me. This is what you've reduced me to.
You know how he would murder all his former lovers? He wants to murder Bronte, mostly because he can't see his son anymore, and he loves his son. Joe's lawyer is being a typical lawyer, slightly pretentious and annoying, saying what we already know, that Clayton is Dr. Nikki's son, blah 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 blah.
Look, Clayton's family or these clowns on TikTok, they don't have a case. You were protecting a woman, stepped in, then it was self-defense. And their own credibility is, as they'd say, highly sus.
Yeah, all the lawyers nowadays say sus, or even worse. Ugh, what the sigma. Kate's lawyer felt more like a lawyer than the other one.
Highly sus.
Kate is also having a troubled time. Teddy tries to talk to her about everything, saying that she should hold him accountable for everything he's done, but despite that, she doesn't, because Joe would either kill her very violently or spread the bad information about her, including 2 big pieces of information that involve cancer and Uncle Bob's unaliving himself. Bronte is feeling empathy for Joe, texting him saying that everything is her fault. Also, Clayton is officially dead now. Not surprised, his head hit a stone-edged surface. The big girl and Buzz Cut, I forgot their names, asked Bronte to speak out against Joe, but you know, conflicting feelings.
I'm not going to play a part in ruining an innocent man's life.
Did you just say innocent?
We had a theory, Dom, and an insane plan, and he was forced to do what any reasonable person would have done.
She gives some valid points, saying that Clayton did attack her and Joe saved her. Well, anyway, she burned that bridge. Earlier, Joe tried visiting Henry, but Henry's teacher told him he could not. So Joe did the morally right thing and gave her a book and told her to give it to Henry. That book also had a tracker in it. Joe, that night, finds out that Henry is with Teddy and does some trickery to get inside. Teddy is scared of Joe, so he pulls out a knife.
Teddy. It's me.
Exactly.
Hey.
Oh, that's not good. Joe talks to his son, and it's sad. Henry is being isolated by his peers because of Joe. It's kind of like a conversation with a father who's in prison saying, don't listen to what other kids are saying, or something similar to that. After that father and son talk, Joe is dragged out by security. It reminds me a little bit of the scene from The Flash Season 1 when police were arresting Barry's father, but Joe did kill people and Henry's mother, so it's not exactly the same. Joe is back home to find out that he's now trending on TikTok. Why, you may ask? Because Buzzcut and the other one are exposing him live, talking about all his past victims. We get a bunch of cameos, including Love's mom, Carrie and Sherry, Paco, and even Ethan from the bookstore.
All the people I've saved, and now I'll never not be known as the guy who might have killed a fuck ton of people.
Joe meets with Maddie, and he blackmails her to help him find a person to help with his online image. Maddie recommends a journalist influencer lady who can help him out. He's now being interviewed by this lady at Mooney's.
Yeah, so a lot of people out there asked me to get this exclusive, and I delivered. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know the drill.
She's a professional, if you couldn't tell. Joe's pretty good at answering these questions, like I would believe him. To show Joe's childhood trauma, he brought the live interview to the bookstore's basement to show them the cage, telling them that when he was a teen, Mooney would lock him in there for days. Then his trauma starts acting up and he cries like a little bitch boy.
Sorry, sometimes he would lock me in here for days.
Why can't I stop? Oh, fuck. Unlikable, unlovable, fucking damaged, fucking ruined.
I'm sorry.
He's not traumatized, guys. He got a text from Bronte stating that she told the police that he saved her, which is good for him, I guess. He then starts deluding himself into thinking that he's in love with Bronte and that she's the one. After that interview, we get a funny scene of Joe just scrolling through Instagram or some social media and having red pill guys and people like that talking about the situation.
These hypocritical girls with their whiny, toxic masculinity bullshit, they accuse men of being violent, right? Till they need one of us to go kick the shit out of some other guy.
Joe notices that one of these commenters is low-key stalking Bronte.
Thanks very much. I'm such a klutz.
Here you go.
Appreciate it.
One more.
I'm Dane, by the way.
Have a good night, Dane.
Yeah, you too. It's Louise, right?
What?
Yeah, that's the commenter I was talking about. He just kidnapped her. However, Joe is all might and saves her.
Catfish.
Wait, no.
Oh damn. We end the episode with Joe being viewed as good by the public. Now he's just fantasizing about Bronte because he handcuffed her to his bed. Such an interesting episode. Why is Joe good at everything? Yes, he's psychotic, but super impressive on how he gets away with this stuff. If you ignore plot armor and stuff like that, it's impressive. In the first few seasons, he was low-key, like, socially inept. For example, when he was talking to Peach, he would sound like a complete weirdo. However, I could be wrong, and he's always been manipulative and to this highest degree. Bronte is now handcuffed to Joe's bed. However, Joe is being the greatest boyfriend ever and is making breakfast.
Why the fuck am I chained to the bed?
Oh, I'll help you. Your ankle was swollen. I thought it might be sprained, so I didn't want you to walk on it.
Why is that a good excuse? He semi-confesses that he dealt with the kidnapper. They have a conversation about her catfishing him and all that. She pretty much said what she said to the police, and all he got from that conversation was that she liked him. Nadia and Kate have a nice conversation about Joe.
Are you going to tell me now that you didn't know that Joe was the Eat the Rich killer? The Eat the Rich killer? That was Joe. No.
Wait, she just realized? I completely forgot she wasn't aware of that. Joe was the only one who knew it was him, so that's cool. Anyway, Kate wants to put Joe away for good, of course with the help of Nadia. Bronte and Joe are now a couple or something.
I wanted my mom to die.
Where did that come from? She was talking about her mom slowly dying from whatever disease she had, and how she believed it would have been better if she had died earlier, so she wouldn't have suffered like she did. Joe admits that he wanted to kill Clayton after he put his hands on Bronte, but she doesn't mind that side of Joe.
I have something for you.
Whatever this is, it better be worth it.
Well, that's a nice surprise. Anyway, that's the guy who tried to hurt Bronte. Joe offers her the choice of this weirdo's life, either killing him or letting him go. We're going to pause on that right now because Maddie got caught by her husband, who realized that she isn't Reagan, so she bonked him on the head and called Joe to help her out. Kate invites Phoebe over. It's nice to see her. She looks a lot better now. Maybe the actress got surgery or worked out, I don't know, something. Kate told her that Joe was the one who killed all their friends because no one knew that until now. Joe and Maddie are trying to take care of Reagan's husband without killing him, mostly because Maddie is in love with him. They try to convince him that Reagan's death was the right decision. He and Maddie can finally live happily ever after. Joe manipulates the very dumb husband into wanting to have a life with Maddie, but can't tell anyone about Reagan.
I'm sorry, Maddie. Reagan was mean. She was cruel. But if there's one thing I know, it's that murder's wrong.
That's a valid point. Joe immediately grabs a knife to kill the guy, but Maddie buys time so she can convince him.
I'm such a piece of shit. I'm just a fucking piece of shit. That's all. I'm so stupid.
Shut up!
He reminds me of Alan Richardson from the college football show where the characters are the most degenerate people alive. Back with Bronte and her best friend.
I do not hate women. I just wish that they talked less.
Hear me out. She's a conversation with the guy. They relate to each other because they both had sick mothers who passed away. It's pretty humanizing. I like that they're giving depth to this random dude who tried to hurt Bronte. Everyone has a story and a reason for doing something. Even if it's bad, in their mind, it's still justified.
I'm gonna be more careful next time. I just mean I'm only gonna go after females that really deserve it.
Oh, okay. Then it's fine. Maddie was able to get Reagan's husband not to tell on Joe.
We're all fucking monsters. But we can love each other anyway.
Love each other anyway. How can these two imbeciles deserve love more than me after everything I've done for you? Everything I've lost. I've nothing. No one.
That was the least threatening thing he's done ever. Bronte let the guy out, but she and Joe will keep an eye on him. For some reason, Bronte put herself in the cage so Joe could ask her questions. Then Joe gets in the cage to do the same thing. This time, the questions are a bit different.
Oh, I like it. I enjoy it. The killing.
She challenges that idea. She doesn't believe he likes killing. Bronte believes that he thinks killing will earn him love, since he killed his dad to save his mom. They get all romantic after that conversation. We end the episode with Joe killing the guy Bronte let go. That stab was like GTA 5, bro. Episode 8. I'm surprised about how much Bronte loves Joe. She isn't scared or grossed out by him, but I feel like that will 100% change. I honestly don't know if Joe likes killing. It would make sense that he only felt love when he did kill, but doesn't like killing itself. He didn't like to hunt or anything, like the animals and stuff, unless it was humans. Joe and Bronte are now officially together. Also, Joe framed Reagan's husband and kind of framed Maddie for the death of Reagan. Even though Maddie did kill her, she was forced to by Joe, so it doesn't really count. Joe goes on a walk with Bronte, completely pretends not to know about the Reagan and Maddie stuff, which is very smart. He's just straight up lying to Bronte, not knowing anything. Also, Kate emptied Joe's bank account and is evicting the bookstore.
I'm sick of the games. If Kate wants to resort to destroying my life to keep my son, then I have no choice. She has to die.
Joe was baited by a fake Kate and was drugged, then brought into the book cage. He's very confused about how Nadia and Kate are working together. They tell him to confess to killing people and he will be let go. Why would he ever believe that? Confess to the many crimes you've done and you'd be let go? That makes zero sense. It's a trap. How do they think Joe would fall for that? Nadia talks to Joe. She is so traumatized. She's been ostracized by her family and was in prison. Holy crap, what happened to her? She looks like some cyberpunk NPC. What did they do to my boy? You gotta remember that Joe thought she was dead all this time. Joe and Marianne have a back and forth, with Penn Bagley's acting being peak.
All I ever wanted was to help you. Do you remember, Madre Linda?
I kept you sober.
I made sure you got custody of your daughter even after the arrests. Your record, the time you drove high with your baby in the back seat.
But because of me, you put all of that in the past.
I made you better because I loved you.
No!
Marianne yaps and yells at Joe.
You fucking kidnapped me. You drugged me. You broke my arm and starved me. You kept me in this fucking cage for weeks. You are not a white knight, Joe. You are a abuser.
Well, that was a good time. Bronte bumps into Marianne in the bookstore, and she starts to warn Bronte that Joe isn't the man she thinks he is. It's a pretty emotional scene with Bronte thinking of those heartfelt moments, and Marianne reliving her trauma. They both start crying and doing the whole woman thing, being emotional. Am I right? Bronte got scared and ran out of there. Nadia points a gun at Joe after he starts mouthing off. Kate drags her away and gives her a talking to. Okay, so Joe did the same thing and sewed a copy of the book cage key into his arm, and he starts taking it out in the most painful way possible. Kate said no to Nadia killing Joe, but volunteered to kill Joe instead, herself.
You missed a key.
Aw shit, it's like Uncle Ben. Maddie is now at the bookstore to burn it down. She locks the door that goes into the bookstore cage area and sets the place on fire.
This is it.
Till death do us part.
What's with this Five Nights at Freddy's ass ending? Kate and Joe are both dying together now.
Your wives dying in fires.
No, love didn't die in a fire. I poisoned her.
Thank Nadia.
Oh, that's smart. Bronte sees that a fire has been set at the bookstore and she saves Joe. Not for the reason you think. She knows that he killed everyone and even killed Beck, but she wants to actually capture him. Joe proposes to her after she saved him. Then she says yes. Great episode. Joe is 100% going to jail in the next episode. He confesses to enough killings to go to prison. I think Bronte is just going to turn him in later. I look forward to seeing how the final moments of Joe will be. Will he cry, deny everything, or will he have a major character arc and become a better person? Probably won't. Joe and Bronte are driving somewhere in the middle of the woods.
It's not so bad. Leaving New York behind.
There's so much beauty.
Nah, she was just fantasizing. Bronte is still planning to take down Joe and have him arrested. She watches Joe, seeing what he might do. They both are planning to cross the border of Canada.
Mustaka!
Hey, Will, it's me.
I know. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, my goat William! Will is helping Joe get passports for him, Bronte, and Henry. They pass by a little gas station and a cop stops by to get a donut or something. He helps Bronte after she athletically drops a bunch of snacks on the floor. She was tempted to tell the cop that Joe was right there. However, she resisted since he would run very fast. Joe and Bronte stay at a house in the middle of the woods. Joe tries to get freaky, but Bronte gives an unreceptive kiss until she realizes that and kisses him before he gets suspicious. Later that night, at dinner, it gets very uncomfortable with Joe grabbing Bronte's face, not violently, but it could turn that way any second. Joe takes her on a little late night boat ride. I'm making a mental note of doing this, by the way, on an actual date. It's that nice. They decide to get freaky.
What the f***?
To be fair, from Joe's perspective, it's confusing. Bronte wants to know how he killed Beck. If I'm being honest, I was looking at Joe's physique the entire time she was talking. You guys don't know this, but I'm kind of a gym guy, and I see so much potential in Joe's physique. If he bulked for like 5 months and then cut down, he would look so cool. Anyway, Bronte demands Joe to make marks in Beck's book so she can know how much of the book Beck actually wrote.
You were scared of me. I can see that. But now I think you're more scared of the absence of me, because if I'm gone, then no one will ever love you like I do. Ever again.
Damn, that is deep. The next scene was so well done. William was able to get Joe to talk to Henry. Bronte is still pointing a gun at him though.
Do you remember when you used to tell me there were no monsters in my room?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you were so scared.
You lied.
What are you saying?
It was you. You're the monster.
Oh, somebody has to make an edit of that, please, bro. Well, that was the end of the phone call, and Penn's acting is perfect.
Maybe he deserves better than me. Why? How did I become this person? I try to love. Every time it falls apart.
Holy crap, I'm tearing up. Joe's being all goth and sad now, knowing that he is a monster.
Bronte.
Oh shit, a double leg. They fight, well, less of a fight and more like a horror movie villain is attacking a girl. Bronte got shot on the side or something and Joe is chasing after her. She runs back in the house and tries to call 911 with Joe's phone. However, she couldn't because wet fingies and jumps out the window. Bronte is now bleeding out and has a broken ankle. Joe tackles her to the ground and tries to grape choke her until she stabs him with some pink thing and runs away again until they both fall in a lake. Wait, she's dead now? Thought she was gonna live. I guess not. The police are now at the house. Joe is running through the woods and kills a cop by stabbing him in the neck with the same thing Bronte stabbed him with. Joe is now treating the world like GTA 5. The only thing missing is Joe not saying any slurs.
Ooh, gripped it.
Wait, she's alive? Makes sense that I got bamboozled, but what doesn't make sense is that she survived that. Joe is begging to die. He doesn't want to go to prison, which makes him look like a little bitch. She shoots him when he gets closer and is finally caught by police. We get an epilogue. Joe's dick was shot off. Why did they make this a detail? Nadia was let out of prison. Maddie has a family with Reagan's husband. Kate is alive. What? She's back to being Henry's mom, which is nice. Bronte republished Beck's book, but in Beck's own words instead of Joe's. Speaking of Joe, he is in a nice little cell in prison. He doesn't look like he's having the best of time. He still believes he's a good guy for some reason, and he gets fan mail from weird women. And that was the end of the show. So You has ended. It was a nice show to watch over the years. I watched it around my freshman year of high school. This season came out during my senior year, and I finished it like 2 days after I graduated, so I find it kind of poetic, its ending. First, I'm gonna go over the things I liked about this season. I liked Penn's acting. That was the best thing about this season. His emotion, and especially his anger, is captivating. Other actors did well, like Teddy and Maddie. The woman who played Megan/Reagan did great. Playing a character who are opposite of each other is hard to do, and she did that well. Even though at times it did feel like when she played Reagan, she watched all the boys' seasons with how much cursing she was doing, saying the most vile things. Teddy was a good addition. It felt like a real person. That's what I mean by acting. I'm not a critic or anything. I don't have enough knowledge for that. However, if I believe that the person on TV is that character they are portraying, then I'll consider that good acting. With Teddy, that's what it felt like, a real person, not an actor playing that character. Kate was also great in this season. Her character felt real and believable. Henry, not so much. As a child actor, so I can't criticize too much. Although, that scene of calling Joe a monster was clean, mostly because of Penn, but still. Now to talk about the not so great side. I didn't like some of the plot points with bringing another girl in. Even though I liked that she was related to Beck, it didn't feel right. I think it would have made more sense to have Beck's sister, if she had one, instead of a friend. Even then, I wouldn't have liked that. The show kind of felt like it was going on too long. I think after season 2, it would have made more sense. Having Love be his final partner and have her visit him in prison at the end of the season would have been a good way to tie things together. Also, what happened to the piss jar in season 1? In the book, that caught up to him, but completely ignored that in the show. That would have gotten him arrested so much earlier though, so I understand why they didn't choose that route. Anyway, I did like this season, but it felt more like a what if. That's what it felt like last season 2 for me. After season 3, it kind of felt like Joe was doing side quests until he was going to get caught. The biggest issue was the last scene with Joe. I don't think I put it in, but he thinks that he isn't the problem. Everyone else is. That fits his character, but I think it would have been better for him to come to terms with what he's done and be a better man. Similar to season 2, but would actually work this time. Perhaps he could have gone religious or spiritual. That would have been interesting. Although I do see why they didn't do that. Because people like him do exist, and they don't change or reflect, and they don't want them to make them look good. I do hope my reviews for the show was entertaining for you guys. I especially hope you guys don't leave since I'm done with you. Recommend me other shows or movies, not from Showtime, and I'll get them at some point.